ब्रूम नहीं, ब्रूम, झाड़ू.
The brief given to our creative agency, and yes, it's real, was a one-liner that said, get anything delivered in 10 minutes. Imagine you're the marketing or brand lead at Swiggy Instamart. Now the goal for you is to make sure Swiggy Instamart becomes the first name that comes to a consumer's mind when they think of quick commerce apps. First things first, let's look at the problem at hand. The quick com landscape has evolved in the last few years. 10-minute deliveries are now par for the course and not enough to differentiate oneself. So the question is, how do we make Swiggy Instamart stand out and become the first choice for everyone's household needs? After a few internal discussions, we arrived at what we wanted to stand out for. The choices were either a wide assortment or value, and we chose to position Instamart as the store for all your household needs in just 10 minutes. This was aligned between the growth, category, and the marketing teams to take ahead. While the structure might look different in your case, ensure you're communicating to the right person at the right time to have their buy-in. More about it as we go through different stages. With alignment on the problem at hand, the objective, and the vector we picked to differentiate ourselves, the next step in the process was to write an inspiring brief. Now that we know assortment is the vector to differentiate on, it's time to begin the creative journey. The first step is writing a creative brief that guides and inspires the team. Like we learned, a great brief is clear, evocative, single-minded, and brief. But before we go further, I want you to pause, take out that pen and paper, and write down the 4 core elements of a brief and craft one for this case. Before we go further, let's look at the ad and how the creative idea shaped up in the final execution.
ब्रूम नहीं, ब्रूम, झाड़ू.
You name it, we'll get it. Swiggy Instamart will get brooms and more in 10 minutes.
Coming to how we approached it with the Broom Groom campaign, the brief given to our creative agency, and yes, it's real, was a one-liner that said, get anything delivered in 10 minutes. It's a single line but powerful. The words were chosen very carefully. We chose to say anything instead of everything. It was intentional. Why? Because anything feels unlimited versus when you say everything. And the intent was to focus on the width of categories and not the depth of brands or SKUs within a category. And it was this one-line brief that was delivered to the creative agency. The team were like the target audience for Instamart, so they got it immediately. And when I say we gave a one-liner brief, I will also tell you what it takes to get there. We started off by defining the business objective from which the brief flows, essentially the job to be done of the campaign. And in our case, it's to get affluent Indians in top cities across India to use Swiggy Instamart for many of their household shopping needs. And now going back to the 4 core elements we talked about above, let's get to it. First, the insight. The one we wrote was what you can shop for on quick commerce is limited by your own imagination. Why does this matter? Because people don't always think of quick commerce for everything they need. They don't immediately turn to it for all their last-minute household items. And that's the shift we wanted to make, from being just a place to get groceries to being the place for any urgent need. Second, the main point of the main proposition. This is the one thing we want people to take away from the ad. Get anything delivered in 10 minutes on Swiggy Instamart. Third, the target audience. We look at this by segmenting it into the consumption audience and the communication audience, which is a subset. The consumption audience are people who are the ones who actually use the Swiggy Instamart app to buy groceries or other household items. Who are they? Urban Indians aged 18 to 45, primarily living in the top cities, who value convenience and speed. Middle to upper class families, dual income households, and busy professionals. Users who prioritize time over cost for urgent needs. The communication audience now, out of this, is a specific subset that we want to target with our campaign, right? We'll write it in a manner that we're describing one person, like we learned before, who represents this target audience in a manner that they feel real, like someone we and the creative team have met or known. Let's call her Rishika. She is a 26-year-old working as a consultant in Mumbai. She's married to Rohit, who works as an investment banker. They both lead a fast-paced and high-pressure life, and work takes up most of their time, extending over 10 hours on weekdays. Weekends are important for them. It's the only time off they get, and they want to hold it close. Sadly, instead of using this time for themselves, they find themselves running errands, handling household chores, and sorting out the shopping list while they'd much rather spend it for their pleasure or pursuing passions. As for shopping, they usually go to e-commerce sites like Amazon, Myntra, Flipkart, or at their nearest modern trade store in their neighborhood. And finally, the task map. Remember the 2x2 matrix? Here's where we'll talk about what Rishika thinks and does right now versus what we want her to think and do in the future after our campaign reaches her. Right now, Rishika believes that quick commerce platforms like Swiggy and Instamart only focus on delivering groceries really fast. Right now, Rishika shops online or at modern trade stores like we learned before. After our campaign, she'll turn to Instamart the moment she needs something urgently. It'll be the first place she thinks of for fast, reliable deliveries. So that was the clarity on the brief and the one line we issued to the creative team. And with that one-liner brief, our agency team came back with nearly 10 ideas, all unique in their own right. And when we heard the 10 ideas, there were 2 or 3 that instinctively most of us liked. The rest either didn't hero Swiggy's brand, or the idea didn't feel strong enough or memorable, or didn't feel like they have a sense of longevity in terms of multiple executions. Out of all of these, the Broom Groom script caught our attention. You know why? It exaggerated the bizarreness of getting anything in 10 minutes in a really fun way, true to Swiggy's brand personality. We also considered longevity, looking for an idea that could lead to multiple executions and wasn't limited to a one-off. And this idea allowed for that. Amazing, right? Let's break it down further. So what's the idea here? You name it and we'll get it in 10 minutes. And what does it mean? Swiggy Instamart stocks so many items, you can get almost anything you need in 10 minutes. And how is it saying it? What's the device they use? By showing how Swiggy team goes to bizarre lengths to get the customers what they need, even if the customer makes a typo. But it doesn't end there. In fact, once the core idea is identified, it becomes the backbone for multiple executions. For Instamart, this is a great creative idea. Once we identified this, you can create multiple executions on this. Let's see the second one on the same idea, the Chawla Chawal ad.
सॉरी चावल है चावला नहीं.
Sorry, madam.
You name it, we'll get it. Swiggy Instamart pe get chawal and more in 10 minutes.
See what I mean? Same idea, different execution, lots of fun. The same idea can also be applied across different channels, whether it's print, performance, or social campaigns, whether you want to create a poster, a billboard, a film, or an Instagram reel.